It's day 10 of the Israel-Hamas war. We are looking at 4 key questions tonight. 1. How and where can Gazans go for safety? 2. Why hasn't Israel begun the ground offensive yet? 3. Is Iran going to join this war? And 4. What has America's diplomatic outreach to Arabs achieved so far? Let's start with Gaza. It is under fire. Thousands of people are trying to cross over to Egypt. They've gathered at the Rafah crossing, but Egypt refuses to open it. Earlier today, there were reports of a deal, a ceasefire in Gaza, but Israel and Hamas have denied it. Also, Hamas says the people of Gaza will not leave, and Egypt says they cannot enter their territory. So where and how will civilians in Gaza go? At this point, they're focusing on the Rafah border crossing. It's the link between Gaza and Egypt. If Rafah is opened, Gazans can flee to Egypt, to the Sinai Desert. Do you know how many people we are talking about here? Possibly 1.1 million Gazans looking to leave. But Egypt does not want them. And their argument is quite simple. What if this exodus is permanent? What if Israel refuses to let these refugees back into Gaza? What if Palestinians remain in Egypt forever? Cairo doesn't want that. So it's proposing an alternative. Let aid pass through Rafah into Gaza, and then Egypt will open the crossing. Earlier today, there were reports of a deal. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken appeared confident. He said Egypt would reopen the border. Listen to this.
We have put in place, and Egypt has put in place, a lot of material support for people in Gaza. And Rafah will be open. We're putting in place with the United Nations, with Egypt, with Israel, with others, the mechanism by which to get the assistance in.
Apparently, Israel had agreed to a truce, a pause in the fighting. They were ready to give a window, and this was supposed to be used to open the border crossing, to let people and aid through. But now both Israel and Hamas have rejected this claim. They say no truce. So time is running out in Gaza because Israel cannot delay their ground offensive endlessly. They will have to take a call soon. In fact, just a short while back, Israel's parliament convened. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spoke to the lawmakers. He called for a crushing victory over Hamas. Listen to this.
Our goal is victory, a crushing victory over Hamas, toppling its rule and removing its threat to the state of Israel once and for all. The conditions for victory, unity and determination. The people are united, the army is united, and the country's leadership is united.
We've heard similar comments all of last week. But why hasn't Netanyahu given the green light? What is delaying Israel's ground offensive? A political decision. And perhaps this is something to do with the US. Remember, America has thrown its weight behind Israel. President Biden has promised full support. But on Sunday, he signaled some restraint too. Biden said Israel's occupation of Gaza would be a mistake. Listen in.
I think it'd be a big mistake. Look, what happened in Gaza, in my view, is Hamas and the extreme elements of Hamas don't represent all the Palestinian people. And I think that it would be a mistake for Israel to occupy Gaza again. But to going in and taking out the extremists, the Hezbollah is up north, but Hamas down south is a necessary requirement.
So invasion, okay. Occupation, not okay. That's the message from President Biden. Now, we don't know what Israel's plan is. Their ambassador to Washington says there is no plan to occupy Gaza. It's only limited to taking out Hamas. Another big factor that would determine Israel's response is Iran. Will Iran join this war? That remains a big question. Well, Iran has issued a threat. They will get involved in the war if Israel invades Gaza. That's Iran's position right now. So Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will want assurances, maybe a commitment from the US before he launches the ground offensive. And what does the US say? It is talking to regional stakeholders. America's foreign minister is on a diplomatic shuttle. His name is Antony Blinken. And these are the places that he's visited in the last 4 days. Qatar, Bahrain, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, the UAE and West Bank. Basically, most of the Arab world. And now he's back in Israel. What do you think he's trying to do? Get the Arab players on board with America. That is Blinken's key responsibility right now, and it has not been easy. Reports say the Saudi Crown Prince kept him waiting for long before coming for the meeting. So we're waiting to see what assurances, if any, Blinken has managed to get on this tour. And as casualties rise in Gaza, the elbow room will shrink for America and its Arab partners, which is why Israel is emphasizing on evacuations to limit the casualties. They're asking people to leave. At the same time, they continue the airstrikes. The death toll in Gaza is more than 2,700. Most of these are civilians, 2,700. In Israel, the toll is around 1,400. So put together, more than 4,100 people have lost their lives. And in Gaza, it is expected to rise. Most hospitals have run out of medicines. They're even rationing water supplies to patients. Same with UN agencies. The United Nations has around 13,000 workers in Gaza. 14 of them have been killed. The rest have been displaced. So the UN has stopped giving humanitarian assistance. No aid, no services. They've highlighted the shortage of two items, water and body bags. It tells you how bad the situation is. And despite that, many families are scared to evacuate. Do you know why? Because even the so-called safe roads are not safe. Israel has asked nearly 1 million Gazans to leave, and they have designated 2 roads for these refugees to use. 2 safe roads. But even those roads were bombed over the weekend. Around 70 people died in that attack. So the message from Gaza is this: nowhere is safe.
There is no safety. Even when you're at the crossing, you're afraid. On our way to the crossing, they shelled Rafah Street, and we started screaming. We came to the crossing and thought it was safe. Nothing is safe in Gaza. Wherever we go, there's shelling, crying, screaming, and blood.
These pictures are heartbreaking. Children are being pulled out of the rubble. Refugee shelters are being flattened. The Arab world cannot ignore these pictures, not any longer. At the same time, Israel cannot ignore these pictures. Pictures of Hamas's brutality from last week. Some body cam footage has emerged from the terror attack. You can see Hamas firing indiscriminately at civilians. They were published by the Israeli army, these videos. And I must tell you, it's tough to watch. Viewer discretion is advised.
هاي بوابته وقف غاد هاي بوابته وحش بيحنا وحش سنديلك روح ارمي روح سيبني وقف انجز هات اغراض هات افتح هات اغراض هات اغراض دروع ارمي يلا ها اهدوا يا اولاد مين هاد مش سامع
That was the brutality of last week's attack. So Israel wants revenge, like any country would, but the limits of that revenge are being tested. The Arab world will rally against Gaza's invasion, and the US will not support Gaza's occupation. So Prime Minister Netanyahu has to take a call now. The need to dismantle Hamas on one side, and a political and military Pandora's box on the other.